everyone, welcome. My name is Tal Hazak-Lowy, and I'm the Executive Director of Friends of the Children Chicago. We are so happy that you all took the time to be with us today. Thank you. I am super excited to introduce you all today to Chris Patterson, our new Chief Program Officer. For some of you, this is the first time that you're learning about Friends of the Children, and we're really happy that you're here and look forward to getting to know you better. For others of you, you're already our supporters, and you're the ones that make it possible for us to have a friend, a professional mentor in the lives of children on Chicago's West Side for 12 and a half years, no matter what. We are incredibly grateful to you. Just an FYI, we're recording today's session. If you don't want your name or presence to be part of the recording, let me know. We had several people that aren't able to attend, and we want to make sure that we can include this for them. We recorded Tuesday's session, but we didn't include the Q&A, and that's when some of the best information came out. So Chris and I have known each other for the last 4 years. He's really been my go-to person as we launched Friends of the Children on the West Side. Chris's background is working in community organizing and violence reduction. He helped form and grow the Institute for Nonviolence over the last 5 years, where they worked with people who are identified to be the most likely to be the next perpetrators or victims of violence. Anytime we had issues with safety issues in Chicago or how to reach our hardest to reach families, Chris was the guy that I'd go to. Chris and I bonded over the fact that he in violence outreach and us at Friends of the Children are working with the same population, but just at different stages of their lives. When it came time for me to hire a new program lead, I knew I wanted to hire someone that can help take us to the next level. And the first person that I called was Chris, and I say, Chris, I need someone like you. But never in my wildest dreams did I think that we'd actually be able to get Chris to join us. And we are absolutely thrilled that today is the 1 month anniversary that Chris is officially working with us and part of our team. It is my great pleasure to introduce you all to Chris Patterson. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Tal, and hi to everybody, my new friends and old friends.
Good, so we're gonna start, I'm gonna start by asking Chris a few questions myself. He'll share also just a few stories about our families and the work that he's already doing. And then we're gonna open it up to for a Q&A for all of you all to get involved as well. You should feel free to type your question into the chat or just pipe up later and you can ask it live as well. So Chris, I want to start with the first sort of obvious question. Can you share with everyone why you chose to join Friends of the Children?
Yeah, absolutely. So for many people who know me on here already, I was working with the Institute for Nonviolence and doing community organizing. And, I was really in a space I loved. But there's a but. The reality was, I was looking at one of our programs on the South Side in the back of the yards. And 5 years ago, so many of those kids who were just watching us do the work with their older brothers and sisters are now the ones who are kind of leading, some of the violence that's happening in the community. And it just really got me to thinking that, we have to really address root cause, and we've got to really start reaching out to these children before they cross over and are part of the justice system, before we're burying them or visiting them in hospital beds because they've been shot. I love the idea that 12 and a half years, no matter what, is an amazing concept, right? To be able to dedicate and commit 12 and a half years, professional mentors to work with children, you just don't see anything like that. And I think, in addition to that, addressing the root causes, but in addition to, all the momentum and funding that is going around the city of Chicago, big places like New York and Los Angeles, is understanding that we need to do something about the violence that's happening in places like Chicago. But I want to be proactive, right? And so being able to work with an organization that is working with children before they cross over and make those life-changing mistakes, I think would be imperative. And so, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but it's just a place that I love. I've been here. Today is my 1 month anniversary, and there's no buyer's remorse for me. I am really excited and happy to be here. It's a great organization, professional men and women who make up Friends. So I appreciate it.
Chris, I want to flush out something that you and I have spoken about to share with everyone. And it's, and And it's something that you said to me a few weeks ago, that you really see that supporting an organization like Friends of the Children is an integral part of the city's violence reduction strategy. Can you explain? I mean, you touched upon that a bit in your answer, but can you flesh that out for us a bit more?
Yeah. So yeah, recently with the new mayor Lightfoot's administration, there's money allocated towards violence reduction strategies here in Chicago. But that's the first in Chicago. Prior to that, cities like New York and Los Angeles, respectively, were getting $30 million per year towards the initiatives. Because it's such a new initiative, it really got me to thinking that while it's needed work, right? You got to fund violence reduction work. Part of the work that I've been doing for the last 11 years, and you've got to support people who are trapped in those cycles of violence. Because you really can't say, let's stop the violence, unless you're talking to people who are actually engaged in that. But a lot of the funding and support that comes to communities of color, particularly Black and Brown, and ones I've lived and served in, comes at a cost, and it also comes as a responsive notion that after something is already broken, then it's the time to say we're going to come in and fix. After someone has already done a decade in prison, or you've lost some friends, or a family has buried a loved one, then we want to do something for the community. Then we want to do something for the family. And I know, working with Friends of the Children, affords us the opportunity as a city, coalition partners, potentially funding, philanthropy world, an opportunity to be on the front end of that. And it's not often that we have an opportunity to do that. Talk to someone. At the end of the day, it's like I've been working in violence reduction. I have a personal life story that touches on many of the aspects of so many people who are trapped in that cycle of violence. And it's almost easy to project who is going to be the next person standing on a corner, who is going to be the next person. And I'm not categorizing anybody. It's just, these are just facts. It was my father, then it was myself. Thank God it's not my children, right? So it's at some point we have to cut the water flow off and support the group, the community, and the family at the area in life where it's most important. And I think that's right when they're children. And it's also in the time when they're released from prison. It's also in the time when they're enrolled in gang violence and part of the violence. So I think all of it is needed. But the one part that is missing is the 12 and a half years commitment to the children of those who are trapped in the cycles of violence. So, I'm just in awe again at the possibilities. I'm looking, at the forecast, meeting with people, and I'm really just projecting this idea that, we actually have an opportunity as it pertains to, say, violence in the community, root cause issue, to be on the front end of that.
Well, Chris, just in follow up to that, you talked about you can almost identify who are the kids that are going to be most likely to be next involved in violence, right? Because we know the impact the childhood trauma can have on a child. But you recently just spent time with the friends, asking them to find out what our kids wanted to be when they grow up. And so can you share some of that? And what percentage of them said they want to join a gang or get involved in violence?
Yeah, so we asked all our families, and we've got more than 50 families that we work with in Austin and Lawndale. And we're looking to expand that, obviously, across the city of Chicago. And, because for us, there's not enough opportunities here for our children, right? And so we can't have enough families at the table with us helping to solve some of these problems. What I'm looking at is, when I'm thinking about some of the issues that some of the families are going through, and I'm seeing that in the response, just being responsive to some of the concerns that they have is disheartening, right? And so, I was just meeting with a family the other day with a father and a son. And, it's the reality is dad is really appreciative of what we have, to offer, and the support that he's getting from Friends of the Children. And I asked him, what are some of the things that we could be better at? And dad was very clear about being, he just said, listen, you could spend more time, right? And so it's like, here you are, you have a family that is dedicated to supporting us and working with us, and all they want is more time from us, right? And it's, it's just that kind of welcoming atmosphere and idea that, is really just bringing not only me, but, other people closer to this idea that not only are we supporting the children of the families, but also the families themselves.
Wait, and Chris, we just said, what were some of the careers that what were some of the things the kids said they wanted to be when they grow up?
Yeah, sorry. And so, when talking to dad and the child, we'll call him James, James wanted to be a police officer, right? And so I didn't, typically I think people who are outside of the box are hearing, or thinking that, all these other dynamics are happening, these career opportunities, and it's not that, right? So we've got doctors, lawyers, one astronaut, and an engineer, and a firefighter, right? And so it's really, and within, all the children that we serve. So it's exciting to see that, and to really be able to help mom and dad is kind of like where I was going when I was talking to the father, help them along the way in that path to making sure that their child gets to that place they want to be in life, right? Because no one is born this idea that they want to fail, or that they want to be incarcerated, or that they want to be shot or killed, right? And so what we want to do is be able to help make those dreams come true, create possibilities for the children.
So one of the things that makes there's many things that make Friends of the Children super unique, but one of them is that we commit to the kids in our program for 12 and a half years, no matter what. But the other is that we work really closely with our parents and caregivers. And parents and caregivers are our partners, and we love them right where they are and try to support them through hardship. And so the oldest kids come into our program when they're in kindergarten. So the oldest kids in our program right now, we have 63 kids in our program, are in 3rd grade. There's nothing wrong with any of our kids. They're all fantastic and all have possibility. And they have parents and caregivers that are really struggling. And so, Chris, can you talk a little bit about the work that you're trying to sort of bring us up to the next level with our work with caregivers, and sort of how that's already playing out on the ground over the last month that you've been working with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have a strategic plan. So we've been sitting around together, you and I, and then friends who are professional mentors, part of the program, and sitting with, the team is understanding that there's a lot of technical training that needs to happen, and trainings that are we've got a list of about 10 or 12 different trainings that we want to introduce that are going to give the tools to the friends so that they're more equipped to go into situations and not feel like they're not prepared for a situation that arises. We want to connect families to organizations that are in their community. We know that communities like Austin, which is the largest community in the city of Chicago, it's really hard for an individual to know everything that is going on in the community. And so many of our families are without the resources they need, not knowing that the resources are just a few blocks away, right? And so if we can make that connection and make sure that we're building a beloved community, one of those concepts of nonviolence that I learned over the years, that we're supporting families, giving them the love that they feel. A lot of our families, like the participants I've served for the last 11 years, don't necessarily feel trusting towards systems that are in communities, and for good reason. A lot of people have been disappointed over the years, and I think it's our opportunity to legitimize some of that. There are great organizations working in the communities of Austin and Lawndale and across the city of Chicago. And in reality is we need, and they need help connecting to families like the ones we have. The families that we serve, they do have some issues with connecting to the resources that they need. They need support, but who doesn't? When I grew up, my family really in a struggle. Both my parents were addicted to substances, and mom was in and out of jail. But it's not because mom and dad didn't love me; it's that they really had their own struggles. They were really going through their trials and tribulations, and it would have been amazing to have Friends of the Children, for me, right, and so many other people. But now that we're here, right, so we're not going to, kind of cry over spilled milk, but we're here now. And so the idea is, how do we become the most effective? How do we become powerful enough to collaborate with other organizations that are in the city and really help and give the help where it's needed? And in addition to that, I just want to add, when it comes to the training component, we've got issues with families, obviously, there's issues all over the world, and, domestic violence being one, right? And so having domestic violence training for all our friends, being able to support them in that aspect, so we feel like we're equipped and ready when issues arise.
So I want to give 2 specific examples so that we can paint a picture for people about the work we've been doing. So one of our girls, I'll call her Victoria, who's in 2nd grade, who's a super outgoing, bubbly girl, started shutting down at school. Mom stopped responding to Chanel, the friend's text messages and phone messages. And mom one day sent a picture of Victoria sleeping on the couch next to the screen for school when it was on. And Chanel leaned in and learned that there was domestic violence happening at the home. And this was before you started working with us officially. But can you talk about sort of the intervention? So at Friends of the Children, we know that we can't help our families with every issue that comes their way directly. Just like as a mom, I can't help my kids with every issue that comes their way. My job as a mom is to identify the issues that my child's having. And if I can't address that issue, I'm going to connect my daughter to a speech therapist or to guitar lessons, whatever resources they need. So Chris, can you talk about the support that we gave this mom and dad in this home that was experiencing domestic violence?
Yeah. So immediately, you know, when you reached out to me and I reached out to the friend and we spoke, I had a better sense of like kind of the dynamics, right? And so, you know, mom and dad are in a tough spot. You know, they've got a really, you know, kind of the tough hand to kind of dealt with. And, you know, we were able to help dad connect to an organization called the Institute for Nonviolence, which I probably worked for before. And then mom was able to get the support and help that she needed as well, right? Connecting her to resources. And that's what it's about, really being able to fill in a gap for people, stand with them side by side. You know, at the end of the day, we all go through trials and tribulations and struggles. And it's really hard when you're alone in that, right? And I don't think it's not unique to people who are just in Austin and Lawndale, right? But we just know that when people have support, when people feel loved and appreciated and guided sometimes, right? Because we all need someone to kind of walk us through life sometimes. And I think we just need to be there, right? We don't, again, it's one of those situations where, you know, I would like to be in a situation where we were, you know, giving parents the training around domestic violence or parenting classes way before the issue arises. But sometimes we can't always do that. So one, we need to be prepared. But then two, be flexible and understanding that our parents need support. And so, you know, it's so far so good on this call, right? So we also had another mom who I recently engaged with and connected another friend to UCAN, the mental health services and support that the mom needed from there, right? And so again, it's just being able to identify the struggles and things that our families are going through, but being able to connect them, I think, is also more important. And, you know, the other part about it is, you know, with the friends who are so amazing was, it's not us just giving a phone number to mom and dad or the caregiver. It's us taking them there, walking them there, being a hand in hand and understanding that, you know, we're there and we truly genuinely love and respect their roles and want to see them happier.
Well, the second mom that you just referenced, I think, is also a great example of this is a mom who's been really struggling since the pandemic with depression that's been coming out in the form of anger and rage. And Lynette, this friend, developed a really strong relationship with mom, and mom shared with Lynette that she was getting to the point that she was going to hurt her child and threatening to hurt herself as well. And Lynette, with the support of Chris, we helped get safe childcare for the children so mom can get the full support of mental health services, which she never would have considered before Chris and Lynette connected her and really walked her over to UCAN to get that in-depth treatment. So the other aspect I want to go, and this is going to be my last question because I could ask questions forever. There's so much I want you guys to learn about Chris's brilliance. One of the things that you observed that I thought was just so beautifully said is our friends are all so good and so nice and polite to our parents, and you want to help them take it to the next level so they can have tough conversations. So I sort of thought of it when you can think of the difference between you had a really nice teacher in school versus a really good teacher in school, that we're not teachers, but like your honest friend that tells you you have food in your teeth versus your friend that just says you look beautiful. Chris, can you define a little bit what you saw and sort of the type of conversations and make it like sort of talking about attendance or whatever it is about sleep, about, with our kids?
Yeah, so, you know, I had both the best worlds, direct service and policy work, organizing work for the last 11 years. And, you know, in organizing, it teaches us the value of relationships. And with our direct service work I was doing in violence reduction, it was more about how do you take those relationships and leverage them to help people stay away from cycles of violence. And so over the years, I've been really keen and trained around this idea of establishing relationships with people who are not necessarily as social as everyone else, right? And so There is a way to do it. It's just really making yourself familiar with that family or caregiver. And so one of the things that the idea of what I like bringing to Friends of the Children is this, we have a great relationship with the families, but I want to get us to a place where, you know, when an issue arises or, you know, for the clear blue, just to kind of check on us, like family members are reaching out to us, right? And so, you know, there's some metrics and some ideas that we can put around that. But there's some goals there around establishing a deep, trusting relationship with family members, caregivers, community, and that we're part of that fabric, right? One of those links to the chain, and making sure that, you know, those families feel supported. But you can't do that without an authentic relationship, right? And so when we go to the door, I don't want, you know, family members to feel that we're an authority, for instance, but more of an extended family member, you know. So, you know, so much of what is going to make us successful and what has made us successful here in Chicago, Friends of the Children, is relationships, right? And so it's always about how do you take your relationships deeper? How do you, you know, bring more meaningful resources and support to the people who we say we care about?